The Habs call up multiple players from the Laval Rocket as Owen, Beck, and Logan Mailloux are coming back to the Montreal Canadiens. This has some pretty big implications for not only this road trip, but for the season going forward, especially missing some key players. But Jesse, we also got to talk about a couple other things as some big trades have gone down in the NHL, and it does have an effect on certain players' trade value in Montreal, specifically Jake Evans. And finally, a note on Ivan Demidov, who has officially tied a record. There is a lot of great stuff to get into coming up on this episode of Habs Digest. Jesse, let's start with our boy Ivan. My gosh, what a performance he's been putting on. Right now, this is a tweet from Grant McKay. Actually, I'll show this first. Ivan Demidov got a primary assist on the overtime winner for Nikishin, and he also got a secondary assist earlier in the game. Jesse, that puts him in a tie with Kirill Kaprizov for the most points ever by a player in their teenage season, any teenage season. This is the age 19 season. And I wanted to point out, too, the record for any player under 22 is 51. Demidov's on pace for 57 right now. I feel like I'm running out of words again every time we talk about him, but every game he's doing something important. Even picked up a secondary assist, getting power play time, and even Roman Rottenberg was complimenting him. You know that things are really going well when that's happening.
Yeah, it's absolutely amazing, and rightfully so, because he's just a point behind the team lead in scoring for SKA right now. As a 19-year-old, having played mostly on the third line, limited power play moments up until now, up until Rottenberg kind of had the epiphany that, hey, maybe Ivan Demidov is my best player. And then he started using him a little bit more. Like what Ivan Demidov is doing right now, Josh, is basically like the hockey equivalent of like pulling a rabbit out of the hat, like just out of so many obstacles. And he's just found a way to kind of climb and become one of the very best players on this team. It's just phenomenal to see. Over a point per game player Ivan Demidov is over this last month, getting 20 points in his last 19 games. 11 of those, Josh, being goals.
Yep. Yeah, the goals are the craziest thing right now. Like, rookie of the month, again, just won it again. But he have 14 points in 11 games this month. He is unreal. Like, I can't put this lightly enough. Like, again, you look at the names that he is like beating out. This dude, he also doesn't take penalties. Like, there's so many things. The best plus minus of this group, by far the best points per 60 minutes, by far the fewest penalty minutes, and the lowest time on ice. Everything is rolling with him. I mean, like, I can't even believe what I'm seeing from Ivan Demidov right now. And we could just say this every single day, but Jesse, it's unbelievable. It's a privilege to watch this guy. This guy's going to be a point per game player in the NHL in just a few years. Leave us your thoughts down below, because this is unbelievable. But let's transition to the current Habs roster. Now, we all know trade deadline's approaching, though it's still like over a month away. Teams are making moves. Jesse, we've been hearing all season long that GMs were probably going to be making moves earlier rather than later this year, and things have started to fall, right? Dominoes have started to fall. Just, I think this was this today, right? Mikael Granlund and Cody Ceci to the Dallas Stars for a first-round pick and a third-round conditional pick. If Dallas doesn't make the finals, that turns into a fourth. That doesn't really matter, but this just goes to show Mikael Granlund, a center, he was a near point per game on a bottom feeder Sharks team. But this isn't the only trade. We had the JT Miller trade go down as well, Jesse. But the big thing I'm noticing from these trades is, like, you know, Mikael Granlund and Cody Ceci fetches a first and probably a fourth or maybe a third. And JT Miller, a 100-point player, a guy who is incredible, fetches a 25-ish-year-old Filip, a top 4 ceiling kind of defenseman in Victor Mancini, and a top 13 protected first-round pick. Based on what we're seeing with this trade market right now, it's making me think that a guy like Jake Evans might not fetch the price that we would want in order to really warrant trading him. Am I crazy in saying that? But like, these trade packages are great. I'm happy for the Sharks. Seems like a decent trade. I think Vancouver probably could have gotten more. But like, if that's what's fetching a first-round pick, I don't know. I'm starting to be convinced Evans might only go for a second or third. And at that point, I'm not sold on trading him.
But I mean, the New York Rangers, rather, the Vancouver Canucks had no leverage there with JT Miller. Michael Granlund, he's old. Okay, he's just 32, but he's getting a little bit longer in the teeth. Like, you know, like, I feel like Kent Hughes, he's only going to really do this trade unless it really kind of makes sense for this team, Josh. But it's just, at a certain point, like, you got to feel like Kent Hughes, he's wanting to cash in on all these chips of prospects that he has right now. Like, how many more do we really need? Even if, like, oh, let's say we're hearing, like, maybe a second and a prospect. It's like, we have so many kind of right now. For sure, prospects are better than picks. It's a little bit closer, but we're looking to kind of turn that gear. And for Evans, who, you know, is such a fit, you know, and he just feels kind of like a Montreal Canadiens. You got to feel like Kent Hughes, he's going to do everything within his power, but we know how he operates. That's why a trade's very likely. Like, he has a number, and if it's kind of too high than that, then just a trade's not going to happen. We do have some comps again to give like some comparison. Even last year with Alexander Wenberg, getting a second and a fourth there, that was at 50% retained. Josh, are you happy like with a second and a third kind of return for Evans there? Like what does it take for you? Let's say like Evan wants $5 million. You're getting trade offers here. Like what are you taking that second and third? What's your thoughts on that?
I think that's that you bring up a good point in that salary, or the demanded salary, is important in this context, because like I'm sure they've had discussions about Jake Evans wanting to stick around. And if that number that they've discussed is above the threshold where Kent Hughes and Jeff Gorton say, I don't think I'm comfortable, even with the cap going up, I'm not comfortable paying you that. If that's the case, that's never going to leak, because Montreal's incredibly tight-lipped, which I love. And in that case, I think, yeah, I'm fine with the second or third, right? If it turns out we hear later, okay, we traded him for a second and a third, and it comes out that Jake Evans was asking more than Montreal was willing to pay, I'd be thrilled. If it comes out that Jake Evans wanted to stay for a reasonable number and they shipped him out, I don't think I would be as happy, because I'd like Jake Evans to retire as a Hab, right? The dude, especially with the cap going up. Now, I don't want to get overzealous. I made a point yesterday, Jesse. The last thing we want to do is make the same mistakes some NBA teams did and say, well, look, we got a bunch of money now. Let's just throw money at the guys that we really like. And it really handcuffed a lot of teams further down the road. So for me, I think it'd be okay if he's not asking for something crazy. But again, with the cap going up, even then a $4.5 million contract this year is going to be the equivalent of like a $3.5 million contract in just a few years' time. So I want to hear your guys' thoughts down below. Would you be happy with that trade package proposed, a second and a third for Evans, or does it depend on the salary? A lot of questions. But one thing that is answered, Jesse, that is no longer a question, is who the heck is going to fill the Habs roster spots for this upcoming West Coast road trip? We got Anaheim, we got San Jose, we got LA. And no surprise, as mentioned in the video yesterday, Owen, Beck, and Logan Mailloux, they're the ones getting called up. They're the two Laval Rocket All-Stars. They're already in California. It makes a ton of sense, Jesse. They've been two of the best players on the Rocket this season. Of course, Joshua Roy would be there, but he's injured. Owen Beck, 27 points, just scored his 11th goal last night. Logan Mailloux has been picking it up as of late. I've been really impressed with both of their performances. Do you foresee them getting a decent amount of ice time this weekend? Because, look, I know we have 6 defensemen, and Mailloux sort of is the 7th, but it would not shock me if he got a decent bit of run in this upcoming 3-game stretch.
Yeah, for sure. You got to feel like Beck is definitely going to be on the ice quite a bit, but Mailloux, getting at least one of these games absolutely is a huge possibility. And the big question is going to be when he's on the ice is, has that defensive game improved? Mm-hmm. Because we know, like, even right now, offensively, he's good enough to play in the NHL. He's going to contribute. He's going to get, like, assists and goals as well. It's just, will the defensive game be? You have to feel like in Laval, he's made kind of a concerted effort to really work on that a lot more right now. So absolutely, I'm really excited to see him play. I'm liking the move of, obviously, Pezzetta has a role in this team, but we need to be as competitive as possible. Every point's going to matter down the stretch. And Beck and Mailloux both have an opportunity here. Like, if Mailloux plays well, there is absolutely a spot for him in this lineup. The arrival of Jakub Dobech has proved us exactly that. If you come up from Laval and you're showing you can really contribute to this, team winning games, you're going to get a spot, right? So as we see him with Beck, and even with Mailloux, it's often kind of a work in progress, but there's kind of a cumulative effect there of, maybe their first couple of visits weren't the best, but they're getting that experience and then kind of work on it. And they just kind of, at a certain point, it can get, if everything goes well, that breakthrough sort of moment for them to kind of stay here in the NHL. So I would absolutely love to see both of these players thriving and earning their spot in Montreal.
That is a really good point. And because I think that I've seen some Habs fans now saying, it would make sense for the Habs just to kind of keep them around while they're in California, right? Just say, hey, play these 3 games, fill in our roster spots, and when we get back to Montreal, maybe we call up someone else or whatever. But no, like, you make a great point in the sense that they come up and they prove themselves right away, just like we saw Dobech do. They could very well stay on this team. And right now, like, Logan Mailloux has really just Jayden Struble ahead of him. I think Xhekaj's done enough to solidify his spot, but if Mailloux comes in and looks better than Struble in like a couple of their games, Mailloux might get that 3rd game on this road trip, and then maybe you're looking at bringing him back once you're back in Montreal. Like, it wouldn't shock me. And Beck, I know, like, he didn't look great in his first game this season, but he didn't look bad, right? And it was his second NHL game, for goodness sake. Like, this dude, there's so much potential here. I'd be interested to see if Owen Beck starts to get some run at center. I don't know. I mean, the center spot's kind of deep right now, but let us know what you guys think. I think there's some more implications to these call-ups than meets the eye, because I don't think it's just going to be this West Coast road trip. I think it's going to paint a nice, clearer picture for not only the rest of the season, but maybe even next year too, where there's going to be a lot more competition. But let us know your thoughts down below, because that'll do it for this episode of Habs Digest. If you enjoyed, leave a like, comment, subscribe to the channel. My camera's frozen, but it doesn't matter because you made it to the end of the video. And if you made it to the end of the video, thank you so much for being here along the road. I'm Josh Gosse, my co-host, Jesse Poirier. We'll catch you in the next one.